हरे कृष्णा। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्ण प्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा. So welcome you all back for the sixth day of this course, Self-Evaluation Tools on the Path of Bhakti, Part 2. So we are still doing this third chapter of Anartha Nivritti only. So I thought I could complete the whole book, the rest of the book, which has 8 chapters in Part 2. But looks like we might be struggling to complete even the third chapter. So we will do part 3 also, that's not a big problem, but I underestimated the time that it would take to complete this course. So my apologies. So today is the 6th day and yesterday we had an elaborate, last 3 days we have been having an elaborate discussion on the one offense only, which is Vaishnava Ninda. So I will do a 1-minute recap of what we have seen of only on this theme of Vaishnava Ninda. We discussed, I will just touch upon the topics that we have seen. We saw what is the potency of a sadhu in giving us bhakti, even by his mere presence. These are the first theme that we discussed. The second, we understood that who is a sadhu or a Vaishnava. He may have many secondary qualities or he may not have also, but the primary quality is Krishnaika Sharanam. He has surrendered to Krishna. So therefore, one should understand and deal with a sadhu only based on this primary quality and not the secondary quality. And we saw the results of sadhu ninda also. We saw how he will be punished by Yamaraj, he will come under the direct wrath of Krishna and he will lose his devotional credits. And then we saw that the main cause of sadhu ninda is actually asatsanga. Unfavorable non-Krishna conscious association in the form of Stri Sangha and Krishna Abhakta. So we saw 2 types of unfavorable Stri Sangha and 3 types of Krishna Abhakta. The Mayavadis, the Dharmadvajis and the atheists or Pashandis. These are the 3 types. How their association actually makes us develop unfavorable attitude towards the Vaishnavas we saw. Then we saw how do we treat a Vaishnava. Even though we should be very eager to take the foot dust, foot wash and the remnants of a Vaishnava, but having said that, our treatment of the Vaishnava should be based on his level of devotional development. We saw Kanishtadhikari, Madhyamadhikari, Uttamadhikari, Krishneti yasya giritam manasadriyeta, Dikshasti chet pranatibhischa bhajantamisham, Shushrushaya bhajana vigyam ananyam anya nindadi shunya hridamipsita sangalabdya. So in this way, treatment of a Vaishnava should be based on his level of advancement. That is the essence of this theme. Then we saw how we can rectify this offense by first repenting, second approaching the Vaishnava, falling at his feet, begging for forgiveness, serving him, pleasing him, praising him. Finally the Vaishnava should be satisfied. But if the offense is very critical and the Vaishnava is not getting pacified, then one should consider oneself most unfortunate and with great remorse and lamentation one should sit and take full shelter of the holy name and continuously chant. And then we saw that how one should not use this third step to avoid the first 2 steps. And then we also saw that how one should not try to find fault with a Vaishnava in order to escape the guilt of Vaishnava Parad. We have offended a Vaishnava, it's not that if you find some 10-12 faults with that Vaishnava, you will be exonerated by from that Vaishnava Parad. It will complicate the matter further. And finally we also discussed about how we should not take stray cases like Nityanand Prabhu delivering Jagai and Madai, or Jadabharat delivering Rahuguna. We should not take such examples to quote to conclude that by offending a Vaishnava you will actually get mercy. That is not a fact. And then we discussed on this very important theme of immunity towards Vaishnava aparad can be developed by developing a general culture of respect. Because if we have a culture of disrespecting things and people, even though they may be non-Vaishnavas, but it will eventually carry over to our dealings with Vaishnavas. So therefore, we discussed on this theme of the importance of having a culture of respect. Because in the progress of bhakti, disrespect or offense creates that hurdle, and that hurdle is created by having a general attitude of disrespect towards living entities. So therefore, we saw that how Rahuguna repented with great repentance, offered this prayer to all kinds of living entities, Brahmanas who may be in the form of a Shishu or a Yuvak or a young person or an adult or whatever it may be. And then we saw from Kapiladev's teachings where Kapiladev says, if you are not seeing my presence as in the form of a super soul in every living entity's heart, and thus if you are disrespecting that person, then your performance of deity worship is archa vidambanam. It is just false worship. It is like offering ghee or oblations on ashes and not fire. It will not give any result. And such a person's mind will never become peaceful. And even though that person may offer the most valuable offerings, most expensive offerings to me in worship, I do not accept such an offering if there is disrespect in his heart. And then we understood that Vaishnava respect means according to the level of devotional development. Sakale samman kurite shakati dehonata jata jata tabeto gaibo harinama suke aparada habe hata. And in this context, he had mentioned the hierarchy of living entities, starting from dried grass to a Vaishnava in terms of the development of consciousness. And one should give respect according to that development of consciousness. And that is the way of developing a very strong immune system to fight the COVID-19 disease of Vaishnava aparad. So this we discussed, and then finally we discussed on these 12 points, the 12 pointers that the carry home 12 pointers that Ramanujacharya gives to his disciples about how they should be careful about judging Vaishnavas on these 12 fronts. We saw Janma Nirupan, respecting or disrespecting a Vaishnava based on his birth. Sharira Nirupan, to disrespect someone like Hanumanji or Garudji because they are from a different species. Bhava Nirupan, to consider someone unqualified or qualified for bhakti because of his age. Ashrama Nirupan, to consider someone less qualified because of his ashram. Avayava Nirupan, to disrespect someone because of his bodily deformities. Alasya Nirupan, to disrespect someone because of his habits. Vasa Nirupan, to consider someone less qualified because he is not living in a dham, and to consider someone else more qualified just because he lives in a dham. Bandhu Nirupan, to disrespect Vaishnavas who may be our own family members, taking them for granted and disrespecting them. Prakasha Nirupan, to respect only one's guru and disrespect everyone else. Prakara Nirupan, to give respect only to those connected to our guru but disrespecting everyone else. Vartana Nirupan, to insult a Vaishnava because of his occupation. And Dosha Nirupan, finding fault even with Shastric characters and Vaishnavas from Shastras, like we saw the example of Mother Draupadi. So in this way, Ramanujacharya warns his followers, and he wants all of us to be careful to not judge Vaishnavas on these 12 fronts. This is the take-home message with respect to this first offense of Vaishnava Aparadh. Now we will start discussing the second offense, which is misunderstanding the position of Vishnu and the demigods. So we will discuss this offense in some detail. So again, we have to understand the gradation of conscious living entities. We saw almost 10 out of 10 offenses are caused due to basic disrespect only. So if we don't have a culture of respect, there is a good chance that we will commit all the offenses, because it is all born out of a culture of disrespect. So if we can try to change that culture, because our whole devotional progress is going to depend on how much, not only on how much devotional credits we are going to earn by proper practice of bhakti, but it also depends on how much devotional credits we are going to lose by committing these offenses. And the root cause of committing offenses is an attitude of disrespect. So therefore here, as we saw, Sakale Samman Korite Shakati Deho Nata Jata Jata. We have to give respect according to one's level of development. To give more respect than what they deserve or less respect than what they deserve is both considered as disrespect. So therefore, we have to understand the gradation of living entities, conscious living entities, and then accordingly give respect. So now we are talking about, he says that conscious living entities are of two types. Chaitanya, conscious beings are Chaitanya Jeev, are of two types. Ishvara Chaitanya and Jiva Chaitanya. Ishvara Chaitanya means independent, controller, and Jiva Chaitanya means controlled. They do have some independence, they do have some controllership, but they do not have absolute controllership like that the Ishvara Chaitanya has. So now, who falls within this Ishvara Chaitanya? Controllers. He says Ishvara Chaitanya, within Ishvara Chaitanya also there are two types. One is Vishnu Tattva, another is Shambhu Tattva. Vishnu Tattva means Lord Narayan, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, Shirodakashayi Vishnu, Karanodakashayi Vishnu, Lord Narasimha, Vamana, Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, Ityadi, all these avatars who are all Vishnu Tattvas, they are not touched by Maya at all. But there is a second type of Ishvara Chaitanya, which is Lord Shiva or Sadashiva, who is Shambhu Tattva. For performing the Lord's pastimes, such incarnations accept the touch of Maya, but they are not affected by Maya. They accept the touch of Maya, but they are not affected by Maya. Whereas Lord Vishnu or the Vishnu Tattvas, they are not even touched by the three modes. Whereas the second kind of Ishvara Chaitanya, which is Shambhu Tattva, they are touched by the three modes, but they are not affected by the three modes. So the first type of Ishvara Chaitanya is called by names such as Lord Narayan, Lord Hari, like that. Harirhi Nirguna Sakshat Purusha Prakrite Paraha. We saw the first type is not touched by the three modes. So therefore here in the 10th canto this is mentioned. Harihi Nirgunaha Sakshat. The Supreme Lord is not at all touched by the three modes. He is Nirgunaha. Sakshat Purushaha. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Prakrite Paraha, and he is beyond material nature or beyond the touch of material nature. So that is the first type of Ishvara Chaitanya, Vishnu Tattva. The second type of Ishvara Chaitanya is Shambhu Tattva. This is also indicated in Bhagavatam, again same 10th canto, he quotes a verse. Shiva Shakti Yutaha Shashvat Trilingo Guna Samvritaha. This is how Lord Shiva is indicated. Shivaha, Lord Shiva, Shakti Yutaha. Shakti Yutaha means Shashvat, he is eternally in connection with his consort, Mother Durga. Trilingo Gunasamvritaha. He voluntarily accepts the three gunas and actually appears to be covered by them also sometimes. When he is performing his Tandava Nritya to devastate this whole universe, it looks like he has been completely overtaken by the mode of tamasic nature. But he is not doing the tamasic Tandava Nritya being overcome by tamasic nature. Lord Shiva is a pure devotee and he is completely beyond the influence of the three modes. Even though for the purpose of destruction, he may come in touch with the three modes. Even though Shiva appears to be covered by the gunas, one should not think that he is in the category of jivas. This is what Brahma Samhita says. So Brahma Samhita says, Kshiram yata dadi vikara vishesha yogat sanjayate nahi tata pritagasti hetoh yashambhutam apitata samupaiti karyat govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. He says, Kshiram yata dadi vikara vishesha yogat. Just like when you add some yogurt culture to milk and leave it overnight, that whole milk transforms into yogurt. So basically yogurt is a transformation of milk only. It is, in one sense you can say it is milk, but in a vikrit form, in a transformed form. Sanjayate nahi tata pritagasti hetoho. So Lord Shiva in that sense cannot be considered to be completely different from Lord Vishnu. But at the same time, Vishnu is the cause, Shiva is the effect. Just like milk is the cause and curd is the effect. Of course, these kind of material examples or analogies to explain spiritual truths are always incomplete. In this case, how is it incomplete? When you add some yogurt to milk, that full glass of milk actually converts into yogurt. There is no milk left. But when Vishnu transforms into Lord Shiva, it's not that Vishnu's existence is lost. Vishnu transforms into Lord Shiva. It's not like that. Just like when you take clay and when the potter makes a pot out of clay, the pot manifests but the clay is lost because the clay has only transformed into pot. If you ask me for the original clay is not there. In the same way, when milk transforms into yogurt, original milk is not there. But when Lord Vishnu transforms into Lord Shiva, that is an eternal, first thing is Lord Vishnu remains and Lord Shiva remains. And therefore Gajendra addresses the Supreme Lord as Namo Nama Akhila Karanaya Nishkaranaya Adbhuta Karanaya. Gajendra in his prayers addresses the Supreme Lord as telling Namo Nama Akhila Karanaya. Akhila Karanaya is the source of everything, cause of everything. Nishkaranaya. But he does not have a source. He does not come from anyone. And Adbhuta Karanaya. Adbhuta Karanaya means he is a very interesting or a different kind of or very astonishing form of cause. Why? Because whenever clay transforms into pot, clay loses its identity and pot gains its identity. Whenever milk transforms into yogurt, milk loses its identity and yogurt gains its identity. But when the Supreme Lord transforms into this material world, the material world gains its identity. The Supreme Lord does not lose even 1% of his identity. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Avashishyate. Even though millions and millions of universes emanate from the bodily pores of Mahavishnu, Purnasya Purnamadaya, when complete universes come out of the body of Mahavishnu, it's not that Mahavishnu becomes lighter and lighter and lighter. Purnameva avashishyate, the Lord is complete whole, he remains whole. Therefore Gajendra addresses him as Adbhuta Karanaya. So in this way, therefore, even though Kshiram yata dadi vikara vishesha yogat sanjayate nahitata pratagasti hetoho yash shambhutam api tata samupaiti karyad. So, in the same way, Lord Shiva is a transformation of the Lord, just as yogurt is a transformation of milk. But in this case, Lord Vishnu does not lose his existence. He exists, Lord Shiva exists, the other incarnations may come from him, the incarnations exist, still he exists fully. This is the Achinta Shakti of the Supreme Lord, the inconceivable nature of the Supreme Lord. We cannot conceive of this. So, if we take our weight, let's say if it is 65 kilograms, and then we eat and drink something which is 1 kilogram weight, we will gain 1 kilogram, 66. And then when we respond to nature and throw away waste which is 1 kilogram, we will again lose that 1 kilogram. But in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even though innumerable number of universes, innumerable incarnations may come from the Supreme Lord, his identity remains the same, he does not lose anything. Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. In spiritual dynamics, in spiritual mathematics, 1 plus 1 is 1, 1 minus 1 is also 1. So, this we cannot understand. In the Puranas and other scriptures as well, Lord Shiva is glorified as actually Ishvara. So, therefore, he is Ishvara. Lord Shiva is not an ordinary living entity. Forget about ordinary living entity, he is not even a special living entity. He is not a living entity at all, he is not a Jiva Tattva, he is Shambhu Tattva. He is Ishvara Tattva. But Ishvara Tattva but not Vishnu Tattva. As we saw, two gradations of Ishvara Tattva. The higher is Vishnu Tattva, who never comes in touch with the three modes. But Shambhu Tattva, for the purpose of managing this material universe, they come in touch with the three modes but are not affected by the three modes. In the Bhagavatam it is said, Sattvam Rajas Tamaiti Prakritir Gunastair Yukta Parama Purusha Eka Ihasya Datte Stityadaye Hari Virinchi Hareti Samgyaha Shreyamsi Tatra Kalusatva Tanor Nrinam Syuhu. This is a verse from the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. It is mentioned, Parama Purusha Ekaha. The Parama Purusha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is one. Prakritir Gunas Tair Yuktaha, but that one Supreme Personality of Godhead accepts the gunas of Prakriti. Sattva Rajas Tama iti, in the form of the three modes. For what purpose does he accept the three modes? Sthiti Adaye, Srishti, Sthiti, Pralaya. For the purpose of creation, maintenance and destruction, he accepts the three modes. In what form? Hari Virinchi Hareti Samgya, in the forms of Lord Vishnu, Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. Shreyamsi, Nrinam Shreyamsi Kalu Sattva Tanoho. But even though these three forms are there, the highest benefit that one can get is only by worshipping Vishnu. So this is the verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. So even though here Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, like we hear about Trimurti, the three Murtis, Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, like that, we saw between Vishnu and Mahesh, both are Ishvara. But how about Brahmaji? Brahmaji also must be Ishvara, because this verse seems to indicate that Brahmaji is also a controller. Isn't Brahmaji a controller? Yes, he is. Like we all are controllers. We all have control over some things. Similarly, Brahmaji also has control, but he is not Ishvara Tattva. He is also Jiva Tattva. In this shloka, it is generally understood that Brahma may also be considered as an Ishvara, but Brahma's position as an Ishvara is that of borrowed energy. Shakti Avesh. Ishvara Avesh. Power invested in a Jiva by the Supreme Lord. And this will be again explained by quoting another verse from Brahma Samhita, a beautiful verse. A verse which very clearly explains Brahmaji's position as an Ishvara. How is Brahmaji an Ishvara? Is he like Lord Shiva? It says, Bhaswan yatashma shakaleshu nijeshu cheja swiyam kiyat prakatayatva pidatva datra brahmaya yesha jagadanda vidana karta govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. I adore and worship that primeval Lord Govinda. And who is this Govinda? Brahma Ya Yesha Jagadanda Vidana Karta. So Brahmaji, he is the person who regulates the functioning of this whole universe. But he receives that regulating power from Lord Narayan. Srijami tan niyukto ham haro harati tadvashah vishwam purusha rupena paripati trishakti drik. In the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Brahmaji himself tells Narada Muni, O Narada Muni, you think I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Srijami tan niyukto ham. I create the bodies of various living entities in this material world only because I have been empowered by the Supreme Lord. Haro harati tadvashah. Lord Shiva destroys this material universe being empowered by Krishna. Vishwam purusha rupena paripati trishakti drik. And Lord Vishnu himself or Lord Narayan himself takes care of the maintenance of this material universe. So therefore, Brahmaji's power for creating the various bodies for the living entities in this material world is actually borrowed power. And an example is given here. He says, Yata Bhaswan. Bhaswan is sun. Yata Bhaswan, just as Bhaswan or Bhaskara means sun. Just as the sun, Nijeshu Tejaha Prakatayati. Nijeshu Tejaha means his own effulgence. Prakatayati. He offers it or shares it with whom? Ashma Shakaleshu. Ashma is stone, but here it refers to a particular type of stone which is called as Suryakanta. So it's called as Suryakanta. So when that sunlight falls on Suryakanta, it actually glows brightly just like a second sun. Not with that much brightness, but with a similar brightness. Similar but less brightness. That is why these stones are called as Suryakanta. Suryakanta stones. Because when sunlight falls on them, they glow brightly like another sun. But that shining lasts only till the sun is there. Like in our, one of my services here in our temple is to take care of growing flowers for the deities so that they can have nice homegrown flower garlands and all of that. So we have a solar pump for giving water through drip irrigation to all our flower plants. Solar pump, you can start it at 10 o'clock, 10 a.m. in the morning, and at 4 p.m. it will stop functioning when the sun starts setting. So we may see that without any electric power, water is coming. The solar panel is functioning, without taking any power supply from any electricity, coal or petrol or diesel or whatever it may be. It is functioning, it may seem like. But you should just wait till it becomes 4 p.m. to see how much power the solar panel has to actually generate that power to pump water and give water to the plants. Once it becomes close to 4:30, the whole thing goes away. So similarly, the Suryakanta gem, it is shining like another sun only because the sunlight is there. When the sun sets, no one can even see a Suryakanta gem. So the power of Brahmaji to create is that kind of power. It is a Jiva Tattva which has received that power from the Supreme Lord Narayan. Bhaswan yata ashma shakaleshu nijeshu tejaha swiyam kiyat prakatayati. Swiyam kiyat means that Suryakanta gem has the same name as the sun. She is also called as Suryakanta. He is also called Surya, she is also called as Suryakanta. But it is borrowed. Suryadev has his own power. Of course, we know that even that power is a reflection of Brahma Jyoti. But for the time being, let us assume that Suryadev has his own power. But this power of Suryakanta is actually borrowed power. So Brahmaji's power is like that. He is a Jiva Tattva only. So therefore, we have established one hierarchy now. Lord Vishnu is topmost. Next comes Lord Shiva, who is also Ishvara Tattva, but one step lower, Shambhu Tattva. And still lower are the Jiva Tattvas, amongst whom Brahma may be very supremely empowered Jiva, but nevertheless he is Jiva only. So this is Shastrically now establishes, at least between the three Murtis, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, what is the hierarchy. Then one must discern who is worthy of worship or who is not based on whether he is in touch with the modes or not in touch with the modes. While Brahma and Shiva are in touch with the modes, Vishnu is never in touch with the modes. So therefore, and on top of that, Brahma and Vishnu are different Chaitanya only. One is Ishvara Chaitanya and another is Jiva Chaitanya. And between Lord Shiva and Vishnu, one is Vishnu Tattva, another is Shambhu Tattva. So in this way we have to make distinctions. Sometimes Brahma and Vishnu are expressed as being identical in some of the Puranas. You will see such statements also. So when you read other Puranas, such statements will be there. But whenever such statements are there, one should understand their non-difference only in the sense of the sun and Suryakanta gem being non-different and not in any other way. Brahma is a Jiva Tattva and Vishnu is Vishnu Tattva. That we should understand. So this Suryakanta is like a magnifying glass which takes the rays of the sun and manifests the heat of the sun by burning paper and other such things. In this way only Brahma is considered non-different from Vishnu. Not that he is also a Vishnu Tattva on equal pedestal with Vishnu. No, not in that sense. And also in some Mahakalpas, even Lord Shiva it happens that instead of Sadashiv taking that role, Lord Shiva's position is also given to a qualified Jivatma. This is indicated by Srila Rupa Goswami in his Laghu Bhagavatamrita. In Laghu Bhagavatamrita he mentions, Kvachit Jiva Visheshatvam Harasyoktam Videriva. Kvachit, sometimes, Jiva Visheshatvam, a special kind of Jiva, Harasya, he takes the position of Hara or Lord Shiva, Videriva, just like Vidhi is Brahmaji. Just like Jiva takes the role of Brahma, sometimes a special jiva may take the role of Shiva also in some Mahakalpas or in some Brahmandas for some reason. What reason is not mentioned? For some reason. Therefore, sometimes Lord Shiva is also put on the same pedestal with Brahma. Like there is this verse which is quoted from this Hari Bhakti Vilas. Yastu Narayanam Devam Brahma Rudradi Daivatam Samatvenaiva Viksheta Sa Pashandi Bhaved Dhruvam. So Hari Bhakti Vilas says, Yastu Narayanam Devam, one who considers Lord Narayan, Brahma Rudradi Daivataha, Samatvena, Samatvenaiva Viksheta, one who sees Lord Narayan and to be on the same pedestal as Brahma and Shiva. Sa Pashandi Bhaved Dhruvam. Such a person is considered as a low rascal or an atheist actually. So, this is what is indicated. So, here Brahma Rudradi, it seems he has put Brahma Rudra Adi Shabda refers to all the other demigods. So, how could he put Lord Shiva along with Brahma and all the demigods who are all Jiva Tattvas? So, Srila Rupa Goswami says, oh, in such verses, Lord Shiva is a Jiva Tattva only, because in some Brahmandas or in some Mahakalpas or some days of Brahma, actually a Jivatma is given that role of Lord Shiva. A qualified Jivatma is given that role. So in that sense, Lord Shiva is put on the same pedestal with Brahmaji in such cases. So this is one understanding. So we understood based on Ishvara Chaitanya and Jiva Chaitanya, and within Ishvara Chaitanya we saw Vishnu Tattva and Shambhu Tattva. Based on this we understood the gradation between Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva. So this is one way of understanding. So now as we saw, give respect that is due. Don't give more respect, don't give less respect. So if Prime Minister Narendra Modi is coming, and if you give him a particular kind of respect, if you give him a huge garland, and then some local MLA comes and you gives him a bigger garland or the same sized garland as you would give Narendra Modi, it is an insult to Narendra Modi. There is nothing wrong with that MLA, he gets his garland. But this is an insult to Narendra Modi, because you are giving them the same respect while their positions are completely different. So therefore, to give more respect than one deserves is also an insult, actually to that person and to other persons also. So this is on one level. The second level, we will try to understand based on the explanation of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. In the southern section of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Krishna's 64 qualities are mentioned. So based on that description, we will try to understand the hierarchy also. It is mentioned that Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan is the original and supreme Vishnu form. This is the understanding of all the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. This is the understanding of Srimad Bhagavatam. Ete cham sakala pumsak Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also is of the same opinion. Aradhyo Bhagavan Vrajesha Tanayas Tadhama Vrindavanam. Ramya Kachid Upasana Vrajavadu Vargenaya Kalpita, and so on. So therefore, this Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan has 64 qualities. 64 transcendental qualities to enhance his pastimes. But the other avatars, so he is avatari. The other avatars like Leela avatars, Purusha avatars, Manvantara avatars, and some of the Guna avatars, all of them, they have only 60 qualities. All the other Vishnu Tattvas have only 60 qualities. So, and the Jivas and Lord Shiva has 55 qualities, 5 less qualities, being the Ishvara Tattva. And all the other living entities have maximum 50 qualities, and that too to a minute degree only. Okay. And amongst the Jiva Tattvas, there is some Shreni, there is some hierarchy, Taratamya. The ordinary Jivas and demigods. The ordinary Jivas may possess 50 qualities maximum, it may be less also, but to a minute degree, and the demigods may possess these 50 qualities to slightly greater degree, but they don't have even one quality more than 50. 50 is the maximum. And this includes Brahmaji. But Lord Shiva has 55 qualities, Lord Vishnu 60, Lord Krishna 64. So Vishnu has all these qualities plus 5 more which are not found in other living entities. In this way we can see that Vishnu or Narayan with 60 qualities is the Lord, and Lord Shiva and the demigods are his servants. Ekala Ishvara Krishna Ara Sababritya. There is only one Ishvara in one sense, that is Krishna. Ara Sababritya, everyone, including Lord Shiva. But he is the best of the servants. Vaishnavanam Yata Shambhu. Of all the Vaishnavas, Lord Shiva, Shambhu, is the best of all the Vaishnavas. So in this way we can see Vishnu or Narayan with 60 qualities is the Lord, and Shiva and the demigods are his servants. Greater than the ordinary Jivas are the demigods and Shiva, and greater than Shiva is Vishnu, who is the Lord of the Jivas and the Lord of all the demigods. Therefore, whoever considers Vishnu on the same level of the demigods is very ignorant. So now let's see what are the 50 qualities which Krishna has in full and the Jivas may have in minute quantities. We may not have time to see all the qualities, but some of the important qualities we will just breeze through. The first quality is Suramyang. He possesses beautiful features of the entire body. So you may have Mr. Indias and Miss World and Miss Universe who may have very beautiful features, but Krishna is the pinnacle of all beauty. Parampadam Bhushana Bhushanangam. It is mentioned that while ornaments and makeup may make an ordinary mortal more beautiful, like sometimes they show very beautiful film actors and actresses without makeup. Actually, you can't even identify. I mean, you must be wondering what is so beautiful about this person, because almost 60-70% of that beauty is makeup only. But in Krishna, it is mentioned Parampadam Bhushana Bhushanangam. The beauty of Krishna is such that when Krishna wears some makeup or some ornament, it makes that makeup or ornament more beautiful. It does not make Krishna more beautiful. Okay. Second, he is marked with auspicious characteristics, like Krishna's footmarks are auspicious characteristics. Similarly, human beings or some living entities may also have some auspicious marks which indicate, oh, he must be a great sadhu, like that. Like Chaitanya Charitamrita indicates this Nyagroda Parimandala. These are the auspicious traits of a very exalted, spiritually advanced person. There are some specific traits which one has. So that is called, he is called a Nyagroda Parimandala. But the Supreme Lord has all the auspicious traits. He is extremely pleasing. He is effulgent. He is strong, ever youthful. He is a wonderful linguist. Vivida Adbhuta Bhasha with. He can speak all languages in such a way that no one can identify what his mother tongue is. Vivida Adbhuta Bhasha with. This does not just refer to human languages. He can speak the languages of all the animals, birds, insects, reptiles and everything. He is truthful, he talks pleasingly, he is fluent, he is highly learned, highly intelligent, a genius, artistic, extremely clever, expert, grateful, firmly determined, an expert judge of time and circumstances. He sees and speaks on the authority of the Vedas or scriptures. He is pure, self-controlled, steadfast, forbearing, and so on. Shy, liberal, happy, controlled by love. Like, who is not controlled by love? Everyone is controlled by love. But Krishna is supremely controlled by love. To what extent? He gives everything that he has with that person by whose love he is controlled. He willingly becomes the puppet of that person. That is Krishna. No one can be controlled by love to the extent Krishna is controlled. He becomes completely henpecked by the love of his devotee. Sadhunam hridayam mahyam, sadhavo hridayam mahyam, sadhunam hridayam tvaham, madanyatena jananti naham tebhyo managapi. And Durvasa Muni had to learn it the hard way after he tried to kill Ambarish Maharaj. He was literally running from pillar to post. He reached even Vaikunta, and this is what Lord Narayan had to tell to Durvasa Muni, I can't do anything. I have sold myself to my devotee. I have given this Sudarshan Chakra to Ambarish Maharaj. He is controlling it. I am not controlling it. He is the well-wisher of his devotee. We may be well-wisher, but no one can be a well-wisher like Krishna. Even if our near and dear one may be suffering, we can at the most take some shifts. 3 people will take shifts and, may take care of them 8 hours or 12 hours. But 24 hours, 365 days, we don't have that kind of love towards anyone that we will sacrifice our food, sleep and everything and take care of that person. But Krishna, 24 hours, 365 days, 100 years, millions of lifetimes, since time immemorial, stays with the living entity in whatever species he may come, eagerly awaiting to see when he will turn his face towards me. So who can be a more greater well-wisher than Krishna? He is gentle, he is respectful, he is compassionate, liberal. He is all auspicious, most powerful. When millions of universes are emanating from the body of Mahavishnu, and that Mahavishnu, he says, Ekamshena stito jagat, Krishna says, Atava bahunaitena kim gyatena tavarjuna, Vishtabhyaham idam kritsnam ekamshena stito jagat. By one small plenary expansion of mine in the form of these 3 Purushavasaras, Karanodaka Sai Vishnu, Garbhodaka Sai Vishnu and Kshirodaka Sai Vishnu, I maintain multiple universes. What more should I tell you about my opulences? Now you tell me, like that Krishna is asking Arjuna. He is most popular. We are still talking about Krishna, thousands of years after he has come and gone. And many other incarnations of Krishna, millions of years after they have come and gone. He is partial to his devotee. Just like any father is partial towards his own son or daughter, but no one can match the partiality of Krishna towards his devotee. There might be some elastic limit of any mere mortal to reject his son or daughter. If they cross this line, they will reject. But Krishna is completely, he has no such limit. He will patiently wait. He will come and purify the heart of the devotee and try to accept him. So Krishna never rejects his devotees. He is very attractive to all women. He is all worshipable, all opulent, all honorable, the supreme controller. We all have some control, but supreme control only Krishna has. So in this way, 50 characteristics have been mentioned. Then Rupa Goswami says, Jiveshu ete vasantopi bindu bindutaya kvachit paripurnataya bhanti tatraiva purushottame. Jiveshu ete vasantopi. These 50 characteristics are present in the Jivatmas also. Bindu bindutaya. Only to a small extent. Kvachit, and that too not always. All these qualities are not shown by the living entities at all times. Like the most beautiful person also, when he wakes up from his sleep, in all the disheveled situation, that person will not look very beautiful. And after he grows old, he or she grows old, they will not look very beautiful. If they have met with an accident or if they have some injury, they won't look very beautiful. But Krishna, under all circumstances, Jiveshu ete vasantopi bindu bindutaya kvachit. Only to a small extent, only sometimes. Paripurnataya bhanti, but they are present in complete quantity. Tatraiva purushottame, only in the Supreme Lord Krishna. Ata panchaguna syur amshena girishadishu. Rupa Goswami says, now I will tell about 5 additional qualities which are there in the Vishnu Tattvas, Lord Krishna, and also in Lord Shiva also it is there. What are they? Sada Swarupa Sampraptaha. The form of Lord Sadashiv is an eternal form. None of the Jivatma's form is eternal. They have a shelf life. But Lord Shiva's form is eternal. Just like any other Vishnu Tattva's form, it's eternal. Sarvagya, he is omniscient, while no living entity can claim to be omniscient, including Brahmaji. Sometimes if they may show some kind of omniscience, that is borrowed from Lord Vishnu. For particular pastimes, they are given access to the heart of many living entities, but that is also limited access only. Nitya Nutana, forever young. It is mentioned about Lord Krishna also, that Nava Yavvanam cha, he is always 16 years old. He looks like he is a 16-year-old boy. So, like that. So that is Nitya Nutana. And similarly, these qualities there in Lord Shiva also, Sadashiv. Nitya Nutana, always young. Satchidananda Sandrangaha. Their bodies are made of condensed Satchid Ananda. Eternity, knowledge and bliss. This includes Lord Shiva. But a living entity's, ordinary living entity's body, including Brahmaji's body, is not Satchidananda. It will eventually decay. Sarva Siddhi Nishevitaha. So, Lord Shiva and all the Vishnu Tattvas, they are endowed with all the Siddhis, mystic powers. So, these 5 additional qualities are there in Lord Shiva and all the Vishnu Tattvas, including Krishna. Then Srila Rupa Goswami says, Atochyante guna pancha ye lakshmishadi vartinaha avichintya mahashaktihi koti brahmanda vigraha avataravali bijam hatari gatidayakah atmarama gana akarshi atya ami krishne kila adbutaha. He says, Ata uchyante, now I will explain pancha gunaha, 5 qualities, ye lakshmishadi vartinaha, which are present only in the Lakshmisha or Vishnu Tattvas, the Lord of Mother Lakshmi, Lord Narayan, the Purushavataras and other Leela Avataras like Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, Ityadi, and Lord Krishna and Goloka Vrindavan. And he says, Ami Krishne kila adbutaha. Even though these 5 qualities are there in all, these 5 qualities are there in to superlative degree, super excellent degree only in Krishna. We will see how. Avichintya Mahashakti. He has inconceivable great energies. Like we see in cases of Brahma Vimohan Leela, he could bewilder even Brahmaji. In the case of the Leela of Mohini Murti, he bewildered even Lord Shiva. So, Avichintya Mahashakti, inconceivable great energies. Koti Brahmanda Vigraha, he is the form which expands over tens of millions of universes. So his form is such that it can expand over tens of millions of universes. This quality is not there even in Lord Shiva. Avatara Avali Bijam, Avataravali Bijam. He is that one seed from which innumerable avataras emanate. That is you can call that within this material world it is Kshirodaka Sai Vishnu, from whom all the other Leela avataras emanate. But Kshirodaka Sai Vishnu himself is an expansion of Garbhodaka Sai Vishnu. Garbhodaka Sai Vishnu himself is an expansion of Karanodaka Sai Vishnu. Karanodaka Sai Vishnu himself is an expansion of the second Sankarshana, the second Chaturvyuha within Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna and Aniruddha. In that he is an expansion of second Sankarshan, who is an expansion of Lord Narayan, who is an expansion of the Moola Sankarshan, first Chaturvyuha, who is an expansion of Balramji, who is an expansion of Krishna. So in this way, if you see, Avataravali Bijam ultimately is, you can say it is Kshirodaka Sai Vishnu, you can say it is Garbhodaka Sai Vishnu or Karanodaka Sai Vishnu or Lord Narayan, anyone, but ultimately Krishna is the source of all. So even though all of them can be called as Avataravali Bijam, but Krishna fits that definition perfectly. Ete chamsha kalapumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, says Bhagavatam. Ramadi Murti Shukala Niyamena Tishtan Nana Vatara Makarod Bhuvaneshu Kintu Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Paramapumanyo Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Ramadi Murti Shukala Niyamena Tishtan. There might be many avatars like Rama, Narasimha, Matsya, Kurma, etc. who may come. Nana Avatara Makarod. One may take many avatars like this. But Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Paramapumanyo. But Krishna is the avatari, he is the Parampuman from whom all these avatars come. Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Like that. That is the third quality which is specifically there only in the Vishnu Tattvas. The fourth quality is Hatari Gatidayakaha. Hata Ari Gatidayakaha. He rewards even the enemies who are killed by him. So, in various avatars you see, everyone, any demon who may be killed by Krishna or any other avatars, they get a favorable destination. They may either get liberated or they may attain a higher planet or some better destination. But in the case of Krishna, every demon he killed, they attain liberation. Not only that, Bhishmadev says, because he was watching the battlefield from the other side, he could see that whoever saw Krishna, they were not even killed by Krishna, because Krishna never raised the weapon on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. He never killed a single person on the battlefield, but still, Yam iha niriksha hatagata swarupam, he says. Just seeing Krishna when they gave up their lives, they attained liberation. These were all not even devotees of Krishna. So, if all the Vishnu Tattvas are Hatari Gatidayakam, Krishna takes that Hatari Gatidayakam to a completely different level only. Yam iha niriksha hatagata swarupam. Just seeing that form of Krishna, they all attained liberation. Atma Rama Gana Akarshi. This is the fifth quality. The fifth quality of any Vishnu Tattva is that they can attract even the Atma Ramas. Atma Ramascha Munayo Nirgranta Api Urukrame Kurvanti Haitukim Bhaktim Ittam Bhuta Guna Harihi. Sutta Goswami tells the Shaunakadi Rishis that the Supreme Lord's name, form, qualities, pastimes are so attractive that even the self-realized Atma Ramas get attracted. Atma Rama Gana Akarshi. We see in the case of the four Kumaras also. Tasyaravinda Nayanasya Padaravinda Kinjalka Mishra Tulasi Makaranda Vayu Antargata Swavivarena Chakara Tesham Sankshobam Akshara Jusham Api Chitta Tanvoho. When that fragrance from that lotus feet, wind carrying that lotus feet dust, which was mixed with the fragrance of the tulsi, when it entered the nostrils of the perfect personification of self-realization, the four Kumaras, they lost their balance. They literally slipped from their Brahman realization and they got attracted to the form of Lord Narayan. Atma Rama Gana Akarshi. But Krishna, he does not just attract the Atma Ramas, he attracts that Lord Narayan who attracts the Atma Ramas. So there are episodes in Bhagavatam. In one episode, Lord Narayan actually kidnaps. There was one Brahmana, and this Brahmana who was living in Dwaraka, he had many of his sons. He would conceive a son, he would die, then again one more son, he would die, one more son, he would die. Then he got frustrated. He went to Krishna and he told, look, in the kingdom of a pious king, the son never dies before the father. I have lost not one son but many sons. What does it mean? You tell me. So he is actually accusing Krishna of being an impious king. Arjuna was also there with Krishna during that time. So he said, come, let's go and find out. We will try to find out where your sons are. So they mount the chariot, they search everywhere. Eventually they land up in Vaikunta. There Lord Narayan is sitting. He has taken all those sons of that Brahmana. Lord Narayan apologizes to Krishna. He says, my dear Lord, please forgive me. Actually, I wanted to see you along with your devotee. And in this way, I can experience the blissful relationship that you have with your devotees, which is astonishing even to me, which is so attractive even to me. That is why he ensured both Krishna came, and Krishna came not alone but along with Arjuna, because with his devotee, Krishna's exchanges are extremely sweet. So he wanted to see those exchanges. So in this way, while all the Vishnu Tattvas may be Atma Rama Gana Akarshi, but Krishna takes it one step further. Not only does he attract the Atma Ramas, but he attracts that attractor of Atma Rama, even Lord Narayan. And those attracted to Krishna are not attracted even to Lord Narayan. So we will touch upon this subject matter tomorrow. We have already gone past the time and we still have more subject matter to cover. So we will, after giving a very brief recap tomorrow is the 7th day, which is the last day of this course, part 2. But very soon we will start part 3. So you won't have to wait for long for starting the part 3. So tomorrow we will continue with this theme. So thank you very much for your patient listening. So I am hopeful of getting your association tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur ki jai. Shri Madhurya Kadambini ki jai. Hare Krishna.